Okay, we got about 3 minutes before we start.
Live on YouTube.
Okay, I have 7 o'clock. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Evening.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Council President Robert J. Sylvia.
Here.
Vice President Paul M. Rodrick.
Here.
Councilor Terry Flynn. Councilor M. Teresa Santa.
Here.
Councilor Dennis B. Toronto.
Here.
Councilor Barbara A. Von Villis.
Here.
Councilor Thomas P. Welch III.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in the pledge of allegiance to our flag. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Pursuant to provisions of Article 2, Section 203 of the Town Charter and in accordance with Sections 42, 46(2), 42, 46(3), 42, 46(4), and 42, 46(5), and 42, 46(6), Rhode Island General Laws, I hereby call a special meeting of the Middletown Town Council to formally consider, discuss, and vote upon the following items of business. Okay, we're going to start off where we left off. Mr. Brown went through the presentation in regards to Second Beach. So we're going to talk about the upcoming beach season. Mr. Vice President?
Okay, motion to continue the discussion regarding the presentation given on January 4th, 2021.
Second.
They have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Brown, do you want to recap anything? Does any council want to start off? Any council want to go through this in any kind of a sequence, critique anything that Mr. Brown gave us? I think he gave us a detailed presentation. He also forwarded it out. I know since then, you've met with the Beach Commission. Is that correct, Mr. Rao?
I did. The Beach Commission met on Monday or Tuesday night this week, Tuesday, and they had full attendance at the meeting. We went through the presentation, and I did make some edits to the presentation that I sent out to the council. Nothing of great substance, but just, as I said, this is somewhat of a working document, and wanted to reflect the input that I'm getting from your advisory committee. I think some of the changes I'll just quickly discuss them because it's easy enough. I did assure the Beach Commission that we are working together on this, that I'm working with the council and them to make sure we are successful in opening for the upcoming season. We discussed that we'll continue to manage the loading of the beach, related to COVID, that is something that's an ongoing effort. When it came to communications, they wanted to make sure that the employees at Town Hall and elsewhere receive some sort of a briefing on a daily basis, so that if someone calls Town Hall, all employees are knowledgeable about the beach operations and can assist potential beach patrons when they do have questions. There was some discussion about making sure we have availability of the beach traffic cameras. So that was an issue that was discussed. And I'm just flipping through to see the changes. And these, like I said, are reflected in the presentation. On the concessions, it was brought up that if we are doing the mobile food concession contracts, there should be a performance provision in the contract to make sure that the mobile food concessionaire shows up and operates regardless of the weather. So if the beach is open, that there's food and drink available to beach patrons, and also that the contract identifies the required hours of operation. We talked about the campground, and there was a strong consensus to eliminate the replacement of the 2 storage containers. We talked a little bit about the origin of those, and I think there was a strong agreement by the commission and the administration that those were unnecessary. We talked about the pump out boat, which I know is a topic of interest to some of you, and I explained the pump out boat is somewhat of a discussion that's happening between the town and the Department of Environmental Management. And a lot of it is based around the potential town's request to add 20 moorings to the harbor and adding the floating pier. Basically, DEM's position that they're taking is that if we are going to move from the small operation that we have right now to a larger operation, then we need to come into some compliance with their guidance regarding the size of the pump out tank that our boat has. So I think that's an area that, is something we'll have to discuss, whether those 2 projects are something that you'll, still want to continue pursuing, and pursue or not, either way, I guess if we are going to pursue it, I need to talk to DEM about this pump out boat requirement. I need to research what, make sure the regulations are what they're representing, and how we're going to pursue that. So the Beach Commission was concerned about that, and again, I explained to them that it's a discussion that's mostly come up because we've talked about expanding the mooring field and talked about introducing a floating pier. That may in fact be the last of the big changes. I mentioned to the Beach Commission and it wasn't in here, the proposal from AT&T to construct the 4G antennas down on the Second Beach property. And I said to them that we were continuing new discussions with them because it is a potential source of revenue, but it would have to be a camouflage solution, which I haven't received any feedback from AT&T as of yet, but I did add that to our list of issues that we're sort of tracking. And that's it. The rest of the presentation was well received, and I think there's some points that they're going to deliberate, and if they reach some sort of consensus, they'll bring those issues back to you for consideration.
Okay. Any council have any questions? They want to make any comments about, whether it be the pump boat, the moorings, or the floating pier? Vice President?
Thank you, Bob. So I would like to talk about a couple of the issues that were brought up. The first one wasn't brought up, but Sean, last year at the beginning of the sticker sales, there were some issues with a lot of people and a lot of traffic and a lot of confusion, and because I think, there was going to be only so many at the time when we first opened up the beach. I mean, it was like a madhouse down there. And is there any plan in place to help remedy that issue from happening again this year?
So we are looking at doing the online sales and pushing that and starting that as soon as we can get the software up and running. So I believe that will help. One of the issues last year was we actually sold stickers late. And I think there was some false discussion out there that we were going to limit the number of stickers that were going to be sold. So we will get out sooner in person, and we'll get out sooner online. And I think that will help remedy the situation.
Okay. There was an email this morning communicated to all of us about a resident had concern, feeling that we shouldn't sell daily passes based upon what happened last year, and it seemed to go very well. I don't know if any of the councils has concerns about that, or any type of discussion around that topic.
Hey, personally, I feel that we did a stellar job last year going into COVID, and we're still in COVID. And with that, I mean, I think what we did last year proved out to be very well. I think it worked very well with the passes that we got out and the seasonal passes to people. And I think a lot of Middletown residents, more than ever, were able to enjoy their beach.
I agree.
Councilor Sanders?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Paul, if you want to.
No, go ahead, Mrs. S.
This has been brought to my attention by an elderly resident. This concerns a remark you made, Vice Chair, about the possibility of only accepting credit cards for season passes or daily passes.
Mhm.
Have we made any decision on that? And if that being the case, what are the mobile food carts or whatever, what are they going to be doing? Is it just credit cards, or are they going to be using cash? This causes a problem with people who do not have credit cards. And there are a few. I don't know if that's been discussed amongst anybody or what, but I know you brought it up regarding the seasons pass, and does this also involve the daily passes?
So I think at this point, we're looking at the daily stickers being a credit debit card system. There has been no discussion about limiting the currency that the mobile concessions would receive. And I think a lot of that would be, again, something that would be determined by where we are with the pandemic. And I think those vendors, that could be something that we ask them, what kind of system that they're going to use to make sales. What is their point of sale system going to be? Ideally, I think I mentioned that this at the last meeting, it would be nice if vendors have some sort of app where people can order food, and then when the food's ready, they can go up and pick it up, so that we can eliminate the lines that form and the grouping of people. I think that would be the ideal situation, but I think we'd want to let the vendors tell us what they can do and evaluate that.
Concerning the vendors, where are they going to be located?
They would be in the parking lot. We would need to identify those locations if that's the direction that we're headed.
All right, thank you.
Counselor Welch.
Thank you, Mr. President. So just on the vendor thing, question is, I know we all got a letter from somebody looking to operate out of the concession stand. Is that no longer a possibility, or are we trying to decide which is better, concession stand or food trucks?
So in 2018, there was a subcommittee formed and they made a recommendation to move away from the food stand concept to one where we would sell food from mobile food vehicles, mobile food concessions. And last year, our vendor at the food stand, we basically mutually decided to go our own ways, which leaves the concession open now. So I think the council needs to make a decision on whether or not it wants to continue on the path that it decided to pursue, which is the mobile food concessions to provide food and drink down at the beach. We haven't put any bids out. I mean, we could bid out scenarios where people are in the food concession. We can bid out scenarios with mobile food. We can do a scenario with both. Each one of those creates different issues. It's a decision we can make after we open the bids. There's a lot of flexibility, but right now, I think one of the bigger issues that we have with open the food concession is we're still in that pandemic environment, and if someone's going to operate out of that space, I think it will be difficult just based on the amount of room that's there. But again, we could put that out to a bid and ask them to provide documentation on how they would operate and make an evaluation if it makes sense for us.
Counselor Welch.
Thank you for that. And just to back up, as far as the cash goes, my own personal opinion is I am not a big fan of credit cards, and the beach forever was cash. Maybe it wasn't last year at all, but for those people, and especially concessions, I can see, I mean, the younger people all use plastic for everything. I don't know how much of a headache it is to continue to allow cash. It's going to be a small amount, and everybody's familiar with it up until this point. So I would not personally be a fan of eliminating it all together. That's just a comment. A question would be, tonight, as far as this beach proposal goes, what are we doing? Are we agreeing to accept the whole proposal, or are we just, is this optional?
So my understanding, I was asked to put together an outline of how we may operate in the upcoming year. That came from the second meeting in December, and that's what I pulled together. A lot of this, like I said, is a working document, so I'm not asking the council to approve this tonight. I know the Beach Commission has some things, but it does serve as at least as a document for you to understand the kind of things that we're going to start working on. I know we need to work on concession. There's areas like concessions and things like that I need to work on and come back to the council. Some areas I need to get the staff moving. I guess I am not asking you to approve anything, but at least there's a mutual understanding that these are the items that I'm working on, and I'm working on them with the understanding there's not some sort of gross misunderstanding on my part that this is something that the council doesn't want me addressing. I guess that's, if that
Yes.
describes my understanding of where we're at.
Thank you. And then lastly, again, just for my information, the dock proposed at Third Beach, I don't know the history well of it at all. It seems as though I've heard about it a number of times over a number of years, and it never seems to happen. I don't really know why or why not. Where should I go to get myself up to speed on the pros and cons of that?
I can have Maureen get you some information and put you in touch with Warren Hall. We
Okay.
have a full packet that we can get to you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Vice President.
So I just would like to continue that conversation about the floating dock. That started with, when Steve Pont was the harbor master and, safety reasons and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, when we proposed that, we got a lot of pushback, from residents that, go to Third Beach, and a lot of people did not want it. If people don't want it, then we don't do it, I guess. But the idea, Tom, was safety for boaters that come down, safety for the harbor master. But I think the concern over time was, at one point in time, probably, I don't know, 8, maybe 10 years ago or less, there was a proposal for a permanent dock that the idea was floated from somewhere, and I don't know where it came from, but people went nuts about it, and so now when you propose something like this, it's like, okay, is that the first step, a foot in the door, so to speak, and then something larger going to happen? So at the end of the day, a lot of residents last year said, hey, look, we just don't want, it's a family beach, leave it be as natural as possible. And so that's kind of how we left it. And it's, it's on the table again, I guess. But as far as I'm concerned, with the pump out boat, and more moorings, I couldn't imagine. So Sean, I just need to be clear on something. The pump out boat, we had a pump out boat, right? And the pump up part of the boat was taken out of the current boat we have. Is that what happened?
There was a period of time when the pump was removed from the boat, correct?
So are we talking about purchasing a pump out boat, or are we talking about potentially reinstalling this pump and its mechanics back into the current boat it came suited with?
So when I found out the pump was removed, I directed that the staff immediately reinstall the pump, and the pump is installed and works right now. I don't understand why the pump was removed, and it was never really made clear to me, but that's been corrected.
Okay.
The DEM, their issue is, if you're going to intensify your use of Third Beach Harbor, adding more moorings, promoting, the use of the boat ramp with the floating pier, what they've indicated to me is they're going to take the position that so right now we have a conditional water certification certificate in our use of Third Beach Harbor. Their position, at least what they've represented, is they would consider the requirement to have a pump out boat with a properly sized tank to pump out, boats in the event that they needed that service. So that's the situation that we're in right now. I believe if nothing changes, then I would continue to submit reports to DEM that says, this is our use. These are the boats that are in the harbor. Nobody requires a pump out boat with a greater capacity than what we have. And they would continue to grant us the conditional water certification certificate. Again, the pump out boat is becoming an issue because of a desire, or what has been expressed as a desire, of possibly increasing our use of the harbor.
Sean, so this is all mooring driven. If we,
It's the
the more
moorings.
the more moorings we have, you're telling us the more demand it's going to be on us to have capacity to pump enough boats that they all show up. Or if a majority of them need the service to be pumped.
That's DEM's position. Yes.
Okay, so if
It's not
we-
my position. But it's what's been expressed to me by DEM.
So if we were to maintain, and I can't see increasing our moorings right now with COVID, maybe there will be a need by then, maybe there won't be a need by then. But are we gonna generate enough revenue off of that to potentially have to maybe even purchase another pump boat or a larger pump boat, or to put a floating docking system out there to service people that may or may not come? And I agree with, many of our residents in the past who came into our chambers and, expressed strongly to us about that being a resident beach. And we're almost turning it commercial. And would it be at a cost to us to turn it commercial for people to come in and dock up? So I think we have a lot of things to weigh down there.
Correct. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the fee that we can charge for a pump out, I want to say it's $10. We're never going to recoup that, it's, but I part of what we need to do from here is run those numbers, present the data to the council, and I think make that final decision on what we want to do here. So, and that's one of those things, just like I said in the beginning, we have COVID, we have the formulation of the budget. We need to go through those steps to bring, to have the information for the council to make a final decision on it.
Understood. I just got one more point I want to bring up. The associated cost with the increasing of the moorings is something that we really have to pay attention to. Because if I recall accurately, and you're in contact with them a lot more than I am, but I remember when we got the first patrol boat down there, or a boat down there, we weren't even required to have a boat because we didn't have enough moorings. Is that an accurate statement?
I don't know the answer to that. I was the finance director when we bought the boat, so I don't know what conversation took place between Mr. Kempen and DEM.
Okay. Councilor Toronto, you want to make a comment?
Great, thanks, Mr. President. I guess I did review this document, and it's hard for me to kind of be able to kind of draw an opinion on a lot of this because there's no budget associated with it. Yeah, I'm looking at last year, we sort of broke even. I guess we would all agree. We broke even. We did better than we thought we were going to do, but we broke even. And I think people are forecasting we might have the same, like if I was looking at this, it might forecast to say we're probably going to have the same results as we had last year. And if it's better, great. And so to look at last year's budget to where we broke even, may be a good starting point for us to say, this is what our budget is for this year. What are we going to do with it? Because unless we have money that we want to allocate, if we have $500,000 or $1 million, whatever we have that we want to put into the beach, for long-term, short-term repairs and things like that. But if we spend more than we spent last year and we only bring the revenue in that we brought in last year, then we're going to be losing money. We're not going to, we normally generate revenue from the beach, but last year we didn't generate any revenue. So that's just my, what projects can we hold off on? Maybe that once things get better, we're generating more money from the beach, then we can invest more. But again, town has other pockets of money that they might want to use. So I just wanted to put that out there. And again, looking at each of the projects that we're proposing, there's no money associated to it. So there's no, money associated to, as you were just talking about, well, if we do more moorings, this is what the expense will be. Well, and also with the parking lot, it's kind of open. We're going to do this to the parking lot and that to the parking lot, but it doesn't say how much we're going to spend in the parking lot. So I kind of need that data to be able to kind of have an opinion on, what I think overall of the whole budget. I mean, I think we did a great job last year. I'm excited about that. There's a lot of good stuff in this proposal. I think the team's done a great job. I just think that there's a lot to it. Some of it's short-term, some of it's long-term. We just have to decide where we're going to commit the resources.
Yeah, you're right. And it's absolutely evolving. And we don't know what direction we're going in right now. And I think we're better off being slow and safe than fast and sorry. Councilor Santos.
Mr. Brown, correct me if I am right or wrong. There has been no budget established for any departments as yet. So Mr. Toronto is asking for figures that are not even out there. So how can we give him the answers if something hasn't been done? Am I right or wrong on that? I know you're working on a budget. It's this time of the year, but nothing is carved in stone yet. Am I correct?
You are, and that's with this document, and I'm glad the council asked for it. It gives the staff a framework now to start working on the budget and to do the analysis for these different things. And, just sort of like talking to the beach commission about the containers at the campground. If they're, in that discussion, in that analysis, it doesn't make sense, then we'll make those adjustments. But we do need to make a business case for expanding the Third Beach Harbor. And then, I think as Councilor Rodrick's mentioned, and maybe Councilor Sylvia, I'm just not paying as close attention as I should, but there were a lot of comments from patrons at Third Beach about, with less activity at Third Beach, less activity at the boat ramp, and other sort of motorcraft down there. They enjoyed it more. That element of that additional activity wasn't necessarily something residents wanted. And I mean, that in itself is another sort of piece to all of this, is that we're saying, Third Beach will be a resident beach. So it's not the free for all that it has been in prior years. So again, I think there's a lot of moving pieces here, and we do need to put some numbers to it. And you're absolutely correct. We don't have those small numbers to roll up to a big number yet. So,
Thank you, sir.
yep.
Thank you. Vice President, I got you first, then Councilor Welch, then Councilor Toronto. Go ahead, Vice President.
Thank you, Bob. So my opinion is, based on the feedback we got last year, I think we keep it as simple and as natural and as family oriented as possible. Because Sean, you took the words right out of my mouth. The words of the amount of activity. We don't really want to increase, my opinion. I wouldn't want to increase that. I would want to keep it simple, natural, and let our residents, it's a resident beach, just let them enjoy that. I don't really care if we expand. It's not always about the revenue. In this particular case, certainly with a cost of a pump out and the fee associated with that, it's not going to cover the cost. So even if it did, I'm not sure we want to expand it. I think we just keep it simple, keep it natural, and just keep it family oriented as the residents' wishes.
Thank you, Councilor Welch.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I think following Paul's lead there, I was going to ask, what a seasonal mooring is worth, just to try to put a number to that if you were going to try to add 20 more. But I think I'm going to hold that back. Same as once the pump is full of, I'm assuming, gray water or black water from the, how do we get rid of that? I don't know how that happens. But more importantly, I think is just an opinion. And reading through the information we were given a while back about the Harbor Master's report, and his suggestion going forward was that rather than purchase another vehicle to tow the boat, he thought it'd be better to moor the Harbor Master boat. And he said specifically, I remember mooring number 100. I don't know where that is, but obviously somewhere close. Give him a kayak. And his point was, rather than police station, get the boat in the trailer, get down to Third Beach, hope that the tide is right, because that is a difficult boat ramp. And even he said, with the size of the boat that the town has, it makes it even more difficult. He could faster get down there in his whatever vehicle he was in, kayak out to the boat, and he's on scene. So that made sense to me, and it eliminated the truck. And then again, back to Paul and the president, as an overall look, I think if we were to expand the moorings, have a pump out boat, and provide a dock, which obviously everybody knows, if you ever launched a boat there, it makes it a whole lot easier to do it yourself, or to have a place to tie it up while you put your truck and trailer back. That will allow bigger boats to come to use it, which brings kind of a different crowd. And if we allow pump out service and more moorings, that's more people. I think Third Beach is without infrastructure for the most part, and it should stay that way.
Thank you. Councilor Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I just wanted to go back to what I was saying, and Mrs. Santos, she's stepped out, but the point I was trying to make was, from a revenue, I know it's not all about revenue, but we have a very tight budget right now from what I can see, okay? And these projects that I'm just summarizing, looking through these projects that are in this PowerPoint, and there's a lot of them. Again, some can be done really quick, won't cost much. Some of them are big decisions. And all I'm saying is, if we looked at last year, what did our budget look like for employment, number of employees? See, just looking at it as an example of what might happen this year might guide us in what excess revenue we may want to invest this year in the beach, if any. So that's all I'm saying. And I know and I'm not here to say, honestly, about the pier, about the boat, about parking lot, about a recording that's going to play every so often, the different things that they're going to do here. I think between the beach committee, the town council, the town administrator, the town employees, the residents of Middletown, they'll make the right decision on what we should be doing down there, okay? I just kind of looking at, and I'm just voicing my opinion that I think that I think it'd be difficult to approve to spend a lot of money at the beach this year when we've got other short-term concerns with schools and businesses and things like that. That's all. That's my only point.
Okay, Councilor Santos.
To go back to the moorings, adding moorings, if I remember correctly, a year or so ago, there was discussion as to how long a person could hold on to a mooring without using it. It was discussed there are moorings down there that are not being used. So if they're not being used, let's get these people out of there and have somebody else use them. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna, the chair of the Beach Commission contacted me. I told her I'd let her on, so Charlene, as you listen, I'm gonna let you on in just a couple minutes. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to address the council. I just wanted a food for thought. We're all talking about the upcoming budget. We're all talking about the budget demands, and it's very, very true. And it's very accurate that we have to really, once again, tighten our belts. I question sometimes why we even have a harbor master boat. Because years ago, I know when we checked the calls for service for the boat, most of the calls for service were bringing back a windsurfer or a kayak that was out of control down there. And it just seems like an expense for the town that really doesn't most of the time provide an adequate service for the cost. So, I mean, there's a balance. I mean, rescue calls, the fire, the lifeguards, the fire department with their jet skis and stuff that they have at the main beach now. There's no call to launch that boat to come around. I mean, by the time that boat goes around there, it's a recovery. It's not a rescue. But that's just my take on it. Do we really need something like that right now? I don't know if we do or not. And I think there's something we should really look into. Madam Chair, Charlene Rose Cirillo, if you're on, Madam Clerk, could you click her on?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Chair.
Paul, I think, had a question first. So, Paul, did you want to ask?
No, go ahead, Charlene,
right,
by all
thank
means. Thank you.
As Sean alluded to, yes, we had a very good meeting on Tuesday evening. We had 100% attendance. Zoom meetings might be the way we should go. We do have some concerns. I especially have some concerns. And one of them, and it's going to go back to what Paul started with earlier, is the sticker passes. I am totally against daily sales this year. We're still in COVID. We had a good, we did well last year. We were able to maintain the crowds, the parking, et cetera. And I just think if we open up the daily sales again this year, we're going to go back into a hornet's nest like we have over the years. The kids coming in with 20 in a car, $20 a car or whatever, booze back on the beach, et cetera. And that's really my main concern about daily passes is it's the outsiders coming in. It's not the insiders, but it's the outsiders coming in because they can't get to another beach. And everybody likes coming to First Beach. And as Sean has, we've been alluded to this year, is we were a friendly family beach last year. And let's try to keep to that family atmosphere again this year if we possibly can. It's going back to Councilor Santos's question about cash on the beach. I do agree with, like Councilor Walsh said, we do have that element of the senior citizens who pay for cash for everything. I am a cash person. I only use a debit card if I have to, or a check. But I mean, I really think we should have those concerns in place. And I think the food trucks, for those of us who've used food trucks in the past, they take both credit and cash. So I don't think they're going to change that method. You know, it's better for them, whatever's easier, et cetera. If there's a single app that they use for all one food order at the beach, I don't know. It might be something we have to explore. But the main topic of conversation Tuesday night, and I know Sean hasn't said anything, but I'm sure Kathy's probably on listening, is the campground fees. And that was a really heavy discussion because we're raising the fees $1,000 this year. We're still in COVID. We still have people unemployed. We're only at 26 spots at the beach, if I'm right. Am I right, Sean? We're only renting roughly 26 spots right now.
That's what we rented that's what we rented last year.
All because of COVID. Some of you, I don't know if everybody has gotten, Kathy has sent out, Silvera has sent out a memo about campground pricing. I think, Bob, you got one. I know Teresa did, because they're your ex officios to the committee. You know, what are they getting for the price of the campground? And that's the key question that kept coming up the other night. But to raise in this pandemic year, again, $1,000 on these sites is not something the Beach Commission's they're gonna recommend. No, that's the recommendation right now I'm hearing from the committee members. So thank you for your time. I'm here. Questions?
No, thank you, Charlene. Unless anybody has any questions of Charlene, thank you and your committee.
Thank you. No, I thank you too for listening to us. Can't see me, I know, but hi.
Tell Joe we said hi.
I will, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any comments? Vice President.
Bob, I would like to go back to the concessions as far as the food trucks. As Sean alluded to, this was brought up in 2017, 2018. You know, we were waiting for the potential for this to, you know, make a decision on it because of the contract we had at the time with the concessionaire. So now that that's opened up, either way, whether it ends up being food trucks or whatever it ends up being, depending upon COVID, but the idea behind that was, or one of the ideas behind that was to have healthier food, healthier menus available. And I think if we do go that route, that should be part of the bid process. Hey, look, I like my clam cake now and then too, you know, don't get me wrong, but the idea is for, at least for what the committee talked about, was healthier choices for the patrons and for the residents. So that's just me thinking out loud. As far as the campground fees, I saw the fee going up. That was voted on by the council three or 4 years ago, I believe. Certainly, my opinion, we certainly can take that into consideration. You know, what do they get? When you look at some of these rentals around here for the summer, that's a pretty good bargain. I know it doesn't seem like it. It seems like a lot of money, but you're parked right at the beach. I know you're in a parking lot, but you're right at the beach. And I just look at some of the rentals that, you know, in my neighborhood, some of the neighbors I know, they're getting, and I was discussing this with Bob the other day because we were talking about short-term rentals that's coming up on the next meeting. You know, some of these places are getting, you know, $500, $600, $700, $800 a night. People are making $2,000, $3,000 a weekend, depending upon how many rooms they have. You know, if they're there from May through October or some point in October, even if we can extend it a little bit, or start it earlier, 1 week here at the beginning, 1 week at the end, I think that's what they're getting, and I hope that doesn't come across as pompous or to come across as arrogant or the wrong way. I think it's a pretty good deal. But would certainly remain open to, because of COVID, for that discussion to happen.
Thank you. Councilor Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to second what Paul was saying there in regards to maybe extending the season. We did get an email in regards to a request to maybe stretch the season a little bit more by a couple of the campgoers. So if we could do that, I mean, I think that would be very, taken well and be a good gesture, and it gives them 2 or 3 extra weeks. So Sean, do you recall getting that email, and is there any consideration as, opening it up a few weeks sooner and maybe leaving it open a few more weeks?
We can certainly pursue that if that's something the council would like to entertain. What we've looked at so far is just following the past practices as far as the opening day and closing day of the beach, but we could make those changes.
Okay, thank you.
Walt.
Thank you, Mr. President. So just to weigh in on the cost of the campground, I've been a camper for 30 years. I've been all around the country. And when I looked at that, I thought that was an exorbitant amount of money for that campground. What I'm wondering, and I know there's a supply and demand. So, if the going rate for Seaside Campground is there, then I'm out of touch. But for the services provided there, I just think that's a lot of money. And I wonder, how did we get to $1,000 more?
It was, to give you a little history of it, it was a step-in increase over several years. And it was voted on by the council. It was, we did a cost survey and study on it. There's associated costs of that campground. And even when you open it up earlier, or when you shut it down later, there's cost, and again, we're going into a tough budget. We're not going to have daily passes at that campground because of COVID. We're going to have the same restrictions again this year. And, you can remember that campground is on one of the most pristine beaches around. And it certainly is, it's a drawing card. But this was a step-in increase process that we, as a council at the time, voted on. We had public hearings on it. I remember several public hearings that we had on it, and we let people weigh in. But COVID's affecting everybody, and it's affecting our town as well. So, last year, we had no trouble with filling the sites down there. And I think we've had trouble this year filling the sites. And I'm going to tell you personally, I hate to give up that kind of money, because we have to make it up someplace else. Councilor Welch.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that. And if this is something that's already been voted on previously, then I guess it's just my opinion. So my question would be, how many spaces are there total? I understand 26 were rented out for the season last year. And at what point do you outprice people from coming back and have open spaces versus filling the campground at a lower cost? So that's my own. That's it.
It's a great point. But let me just say this. This was the last step increase. And there were several step increases. We just didn't make a quantum leap to this. We stepped it out to give people the opportunity. But don't forget, the town has to generate revenue. And, when we talk about giving tax breaks, tax incentives, we talk about, cutting back and giving, there's an associated cost with running a business. And we have a business that we're running, and we have to make sure to keep the business running. But it'll all come up, and we'll discuss it at length at the budget meeting. I think this exercise, and thank you, Sean, and your team, especially. I want to thank Charlene and the beach committee. I met with them, and spoke with them. Sean and I met with them a few weeks ago with the co-chair, Mr. Seipel, and with the chair. And we're all rowing in the same direction. And we all have the same desires. And I think the most important desire to me is that this is a Middletown beach. And we try to make it as Middletown friendly as possible. This is our residence beach. This isn't a commercial beach. This isn't Six Flags. This isn't someplace where we're Coney Island, where we're bringing people in, we're soliciting people to come in. This is a family beach. And I think last year proved it out for me. Any other comments before we move on? Vice President.
So, Sean, I need a little help with this number, I think. Remember, I'm referencing the campground season. I just try and want to make sure if we break it down by days, I think I wrote down June, July, August, September. Even if we went to, end of October, if that's what they want, and if it makes sense. And I think, when do they come in? The second week of May through the second week of October currently, or?
I'm not sure if Will's online. I'm just not as.
Sure, let me help you out with that. I believe, and I'm going back, I'm thinking back a year. I believe when we broke it down, I want to say 110 days or 112 days was the number that they were there, something in that area.
It is. And then the other piece is this year, Memorial Day is very late. It's at the very end of the month. So that's why it seems like it's a shorter season. I mean, I think the one thing, this is not a topic, as Charlene mentioned, that's going to go away. The Beach Commission is going to talk about it, and it will come back to the council. And I have a couple items that I've written down already. I think we would just make sure we bring all of that information back to you when the Beach Commission comes back with its recommendations, which I would anticipate, would happen in February. So.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Vice President.
But I will get that data for you, Paul, the number of days and how we've historically established the start date and the end date.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a camper, so I don't know all the costs associated with camping. But I do know that if, just simple math, if you take, if I went from June, all of June, July, August, September, 2 weeks in May, 2 weeks in October, roughly, it's about $60 a day, roughly, for those amount of days. And I don't know, camping wise, permanent camp, to be a permanent camper at a beach for, those amount of days and on the beach that we have, if that's high or not high, but, that decision was made back then. And again, like you said, Sean, if it's not going to go away, then maybe it comes back and we discuss it. But I just want to break it down as simple as possible from a numbers perspective, rough numbers, $60 a day. I don't know where you stay on the island here for $60 a day besides your own home or a family's, and parked in front of the beach. So I don't know.
Yep, we'll break it down by the day and make it more of a cost accounting analysis. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. Second item, go ahead, Vice President.
Sorry, Bob, to interrupt. So when does it come back, Sean? Because the season, by the time we talk about it again, it's almost February. So when does this get solidified?
It will.
Last time we discussed it, Sean, the last time we discussed this, we said we were going to give another opportunity at our first meeting in February.
Okay.
And that we were going to make a decision either at that meeting.
Okay.
Or at no later than the second meeting in February, because it's upon us.
Fair enough. Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Item number 2, communication of the tax assessor, cancellation of taxes for certain Middletown residents.
Motion to receive said communication.
Second.
I have a motion and second to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Before we have any conversation, resolution of the council, cancellation of taxes for certain Middletown residents.
Motion to pass said resolution.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any conversation? Council Santos.
I just want to add these few words that I did talk to the tax assessor, and he answered all my questions regarding the abatements, and I was very happy with his response and his answers.
Okay, does any other council have any questions in regards to the cancellation of the taxes that were identified in the document? Okay, hearing that, we have a motion. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 4. Boards and committees. Memorandum of Council Welch, resignation from the Open Space and Fields Committee.
Motion to receive said resignation.
Second.
We have a motion and second to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item number 5. Appointment of tree warden for 2021 calendar year.
Motion to reappoint Alan Kirby as a tree warden for the 2021 calendar year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any conversation?
I have a quick question.
Council Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was contacted by a couple folks in regards to like a tree is overhanging a sign and needs to be cut back and so on. Is that just, does a tree warden get involved with stuff like that?
If it's a maintenance item, he would not. If the resident had called and asked for the tree to be removed, the tree warden would be involved in that discussion. But just a tree branch that's falling over, the Public Works Department would take care of that.
Yeah, it just looks like this tree has grown up, to a point where you can't see the sign. So I'll send in something to the website. So thanks.
Yep, he can just email middletownhelps@middletownri.com and it'll get assigned.
It's a good plug, Sean. I like it.
Yep.
Council Santos.
Mr. President, I'm wondering, he's appointed for just 1 year. Can we not make it 2 or 3 years so that he doesn't have to be applying every single year?
No,
Unless
it
he
can't.
doesn't want to.
No, it can't. It has to be appointed every year.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other conversation? Okay, hearing none. And by the way, he does a stellar job. Alan Kirby knows the trees. He does a great job. Okay, we have motions. Please second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item number 6, memorandum from Rosemarie Krieger, Superintendent of Schools, council participation on the Budget Subcommittee and Building Committee.
Motion to receive said memorandum and appoint.
Second.
Okay. Rather than appoint, I think this is something we should have discussion. This is the first time in my years on the council that I've seen this type of request. And Mr. Brown, you're closest to the school superintendent. Was there any reasoning? I just took this surprised me, this request this year. Is this coming from her office or is this coming from the school committee?
It's coming from the school committee.
Do you speak with them at all?
Not with the school committee. I've been in touch with the superintendent, but I have not been in touch with Ms. Spengler from the school committee, no.
And the reasoning for this is why? Do you have any idea?
They believe that this will create a better dialogue, a better avenue of communication with the town council.
Okay.
Looking, for the opportunity to get your input, also to bring the message back to the entire council as to the work that the school committee is trying to accomplish.
Okay. Any councils have any comments in regards to this? Councilor Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is the superintendent on the call today?
No, she's not that I see.
Okay. I think there's some state regulations in here where they're supposed to be presenting some of this information, a 2-year budget, things along those lines.
Mm.
Some new requirements, I believe.
It is.
Okay.
You're absolutely right.
So, and will this take into consideration the consolidation of the departments at all?
I think that's a very valid question. Mr. Brown, any feedback from you in regards to that? Any speculation from you in regards to that?
No.
Okay.
Because I know we got in the budget period last year and it didn't take it into consideration. I know COVID threw a monkey wrench in the whole thing. So I was just curious if this does consider, hey, we're consolidating, and is that part of the conversation? That would be a question I have.
I mean, we have liaisons to the school committee. And I was just wondering why the liaisons wouldn't have been considered or spoken to in regards to this. To say that I'm a little taken back by this, I am. Councilor Toronto.
Yes. In regards to the school, yes, they're going through the budget process. And it was a couple of weeks ago, they did get they had a conversation with their lawyer in regards to the changes that are made on the state level and the different responsibilities that the principals have versus the superintendent have from regards to hiring and discipline and firing and budgets and building repair. And I think that it's really shaking it up from the top. And now they've got to come up with a budget to address all these new changes. So this is moving fast. And so, as you said, you're surprised this has snuck up, or this is different than what has happened in the past. It is different. They got other considerations. And that's why I would think it would be important if we could get someone from the school committee to explain to us their reasoning behind this and, what the goal of it is, and maybe answer some of our questions.
I agree. I think a good follow-up after tonight, unless my colleagues feel different and they want to make appointments there, I think we should learn more about the reasoning behind this. And I just don't want to get into a position where we're going to be overlapping anything, that we're going to be involved in something that we per se shouldn't be involved in. And has any of the liaisons, has this been brought up to you in regards to this?
Yes. Again, go ahead, Mrs. Santos.
Go ahead, Mr. Toronto.
No, you can go ahead.
I have not attended any of the school department meetings because I've had a problem at home. So, Mr. Toronto, if you've attended, you're more than welcome to speak up.
Well, again, yes, I was on it for the last 2 years. Basically, again, things have been pretty status quo through the years. This has been a new requirement that's been brought up, and you can go watch the last couple meetings. There's been conversations around this in reference to what their rights are and what they should be doing in regards to what the requirements are from the state. And the state is requiring a 2-year plan to do a forecast and what the finances are going to look like, the budget, the school repairs. There's a whole requirements list that they've got to report back to the school committee, to the state. So I think this is part of the process that they document it. We had this meeting, and I think it's very good that they're asking us to get involved with it, because I think there are a lot of moving pieces. I think that we are trying to consolidate the two departments. The state's trying to get answers in regards to what the school committee is doing. And this is all going to point to the budget this year, because all these new changes have created a requirement. So as they're going through this and they're talking about the new requirements by the state, they also will keep saying the council needs to realize this is why we need more money. So this is the conversation that goes on. So they're coming to us and saying, we need a couple representatives to come and meet with us to talk through these issues. One, I think I'm hoping to say we're consolidating. So this is what this process is going to take and cost. And by the way, we got to give these numbers to the state.
To me, this certainly doesn't sound like a consolidation request. It sounds like asking us to jump on board to help them go through an exercise that is mandated for them to do now, which is okay. I mean, I have no problem with helping them out, none at all. But I would like to learn more of the logic behind this, and I'd like to hear from them directly, myself, unless the council feels differently. I just as soon wait, and we'll bring this back at another meeting and we'll discuss it there. Unless somebody feels differently.
No, I agree with you.
I'll defer to our in-house education liaison, Mrs. Von Villas. What are your thoughts on this? Do you have any?
I would want to know more.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Councilor Santos?
I'd like to have this continued, and I agree with Mrs. Von Villas. We need to know more about this.
Okay. Is everybody in agreement? Okay, we have a motion second to receive this memorandum and to appoint,
Mr. President,
yes?
could I withdraw that and make a motion to
Absolutely
continue
can,
this?
Mr. Vice President,
What's that?
you absolutely can.
I make a motion to withdraw this, to amend it or withdraw it, and then I'd make a motion. I guess we need to do one at a time. So motion to withdraw my motion.
Do we have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, motion to continue this till we find out more information.
second,
Any further conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
second.
All in favor?
My
Aye.
kind of meeting. Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Don't forget my docket.
I have it.
Thank you.
It's gonna be a drive-by.
Bust it out.
Thank you, everyone.
Open your window.